Kim Gray with us. She's called on him to resign. No, I'm sorry. She's called on him. She's called on an investigation into his handling. She hasn't called on him to resign. Some other people have done that. Sorry about that, Kim. I don't want to misstate that.
No,
but she has called for an investigation. Kim, what is going on with these statues?
Well, I think that from all indications, it should have cost a whole lot less than what we as taxpayers paid for it, and the contract went to a close friend and political ally through a shell company that was created only a few days before he came up with this emergency reason to remove monuments. Since the removal, council has voted unanimously to remove monuments. So, you've got to ask yourself why this $1.8 million contract went out the door.
Okay, so let's break this down, right? So we're not going to discuss whether or not the statue should have been removed. The council voted to remove them. That's fine. So we all get that. What comes at issue is how do they get removed? So they get removed. First of all, it cost the city $1.8 million.
Yes.
That the company that got awarded the contract to take them out was a shell company that was put into business 10 days before they got $1.8 million. Third thing we find out is that there was a no-bid contract, and after you voted to get the statues out, whether it took a week, 5 days, or 15 days, it really didn't matter. Once you announced they were coming down, to me, another week wouldn't have mattered. So we got a no-bid contract, got $1.8 million. Now we got other people saying, they were charging $180,000 a day. We could have done that for $20,000 or $30,000 a day. So who got the money? And how did he bypass procurement? And, to spend taxpayer dollars in a city, Kim, as you know, as the councilwoman, there's a long bureaucracy you have to go through, right? How did he get all this done in a week?
Well, it was under emergency provisions because of the civil unrest. He used that as the excuse and reason for why he could justify spending this kind of money. And just to put that in perspective, a person earning $36,000 a year, which is above our Richmond median, we have a lot of people in poverty, would have to work 50 years to reach $1.8 million. That would have been more than 5,000 laptops for students who we still have more than a third who don't have laptops issued by RPS, and school is fast approaching. So, it's wasteful, and in the wake of us needing those dollars to recover from COVID-19 and the civil unrest that has much of our city boarded.
So you asked for an investigation, and LeVar Stoney's chief of staff, I think is Lincoln Sanders, I recall, said the other day, we went out, we asked a bunch of people, they all turned it down. They don't want to have their names out there because of Charlottesville and this and that. Yet companies have come forward and said, nobody contacted me. I would have done it for $30,000 a day, which would have been a fraction of the $1.8 million. So other companies that come forward, why weren't they asked?
That's a good question, and I've heard from several contractors who do work with the city, many of them minority, one in particular who doesn't want to be named because they don't want to have any retribution, but they do this kind of work, and they said they were never approached about it. So it's really interesting to find that this contract went out the door during a time that we are in need of additional revenues. That a close friend and political ally of the mayor got a contract that looks and appears to be a lot more than it should have cost our taxpayers.
Okay, so we're with Councilman Kim Gray, one of several candidates running for mayor. That'll be decided in the mayoral election in November for Richmond. All full disclosure, we've endorsed Kim Gray for mayor. I think should be fantastic. The way it works is there's 9 wards in Richmond. For a candidate to win on the first ballot, they have to outright win a plurality in 5 of the wards. If they don't, let's say they only win 3 or 4, then it goes to a runoff with the top 2 finishers. So that's the way it works. Let me ask you this. The company the shell company that Stoney created called Team Henry Enterprises or something. So that was created 10 days before they got the money. It was created, so it didn't exist. It was just created. Also, the guy that created it, a guy by the name of Henry, obviously. I can't think of his first name. I'm doing this off memory. But his last name is Henry. He created this. Devon Henry. I'm sorry. When we checked the records, Devon Henry gave $4,000 to Stoney's political action committee. So he's a Stoney donor. So let me get this straight. You're a Stoney donor. You gave him money. You create a shell company 10 days ahead of time. Then you get $1.8 million. You have basically a no-bid process. Then you do the work. Then other people come out and say, I'd have done the work for a fraction of that. We got overcharged. And he was a donor. Doesn't that smell a little fishy to you?
Not only does
Kim?
it smell fishy, procurement rules are there to protect the citizens, and those procurement rules were ignored. And under the guise of the fact that he said it was an emergency situation, and we've seen this happen in the past, and I don't think that it was justified. I think that if it were a 10-day process, we could have gotten a request for proposals out and bid it out. And I'm certain that it would not have cost $1.8 million. So
well, my question is, again, look, the mayor went to the governor, asked for the emergency powers to be extended so he can bypass, through an emergency, all of the normal procurement processes in Richmond that are put in place just to stop this kind of a cronyism thing. But I guess my question is, let me ask you this. If the statutes took another 15 days to be taken down, but you guys announced we're going to be taking them down August 17th, right? That was Monday, not July, whatever it was. It's going to take a month to get the right firm in. We're going to put out the bids. It's going to be August 17th. That's our target date. What would have happened, Kim?
That's a good question. I mean, they did take a break for the holiday. I think the 4th of July holiday. So, I mean, where's the emergency? That's what a lot of people have asked. And you gotta wonder, why a shell corporation was created, and they resisted putting information out about who actually got the contract. So it just doesn't pass the smell test. Really doesn't.
Well, the mayor ordered the crews to start working on July 1st. This was in direct contrast to the council, the recommendation. The recommendation that he got from interim city attorney Haskell Brown, who said that, hey, if you do this, you're going to get sued. Just go through the regular order. I mean, just go through the regular process. Right. It's tough to sit here and say, okay, we get the protests, we get the mobs, we get the statues. Okay, we get it. Or they have to come down. Okay, fine. So go through the process. Say they're coming down, and say, it's going to take 2-3 weeks. We're going to have to, we got children that can't go to school, that don't have a computer and can't learn. And so we don't want to waste money so they can't have a computer so that they have a shot at learning something. There's not a person in Richmond that would have been upset over that. They would have said, well, that makes sense. Instead, we get this thing jammed through, goes to a donor. They gouge the city. The money is gone. Everything is bypassed. Now we find out there's another, 75 documents that have not been released that people are trying to get. What do you think is going to be in those documents, Kim?
And that it remains to be seen, and that's why I asked for a full-on investigation, because what they can hide for certain reasons, they cannot hide if it's subpoenaed by a prosecutor or a court. So I think the transparency is key here, and we got to follow the money and understand exactly what happened. These are our tax dollars at hand. This is not his personal fund. The last I checked, the GoFundMe that they had established, which I have questions about, it was $25,000 in that account. I'm not sure what they've made it up to, but I'm almost certain it's nowhere near the $1.8 million that has been spent on this contract. And then in addition to that, any dollars that come in philanthropically could be used to get our children broadband access and computers. We still have a third of our children with school starting right after Labor Day who don't have RPS laptops and access to the internet. This is a major crisis situation, and nobody's telling me what the plan is and how we're going to reach them. So, that is the biggest emergency we're facing right now.
Kim, there's no plan for students. Dropout rates went up to 30%. There's no education going on. The mayor doesn't care. He's just interested in what his next political step is. Now we've got the scandal going on, a scandal after scandal after scandal. I mean, first it was he spent all his attention trying to build a arena that nobody wanted, that nobody could pay for. He was going to soak the taxpayers for that so he could then run for lieutenant governor. I mean, when are the people in Richmond going to wake up and say, what has this guy done for the city? City's burning down, riots all over the place. You and your family got terrorized a few weeks back. Nobody did anything about that. Your children afraid. Look, my theory in why the Democrats in the House yesterday voted to get out of there and go to Zoom. You know why? Because they came down from Northern Virginia. They came up from Hampton Roads. They had to go downtown. It's depressing. Plywood all over the place. City burned down. Nothing's open. Can't go to dinner. The F word on every other door. F this, F that. They were embarrassed. It's their mayor that they backed. It's their policies. And they got out of there. Kim, how are we going to fix this?
I think we have to bring about the transparency that the citizens demand. We have to bring back and restore peace to our city when laws are being broken. We have to address those laws and make sure that people are seeing a consequence. You can't go around spray painting someone's home, throwing Molotov cocktails into businesses and not have a consequence. It's ludicrous. So I just think that enforcing the laws that are on the books. I got another text where a child care buggy with 6 babies going down the sidewalk had to cross the street from all the assault rifles in a residential area. They have never been loaded. Assault rifles have not been legal. It's been on the books at the state level in Richmond, Henrico, and every other city in the Commonwealth. And they've been allowed to walk around and brandish weapons in a residential area for months now.
Kim Gray with us, Councilwoman Kim Gray, Democrat Councilwoman in Richmond, running for mayor. That election determined November 3rd. LeVar Stoney, one of the candidates, he's the mayor, and several others running. Kim, you experienced this firsthand at home late at night with your children being terrorized with lasers and banging on garbage cans or whatever they were doing outside your home. You called for the police. Nobody came. What did you tell your children, Kim?
Well, they had a lot of questions. My youngest, who's 12, asked me if they legally had a permit to show up at our house. I had to explain it is against the law. It's called picketing when you go into a residential area, and it's not a First Amendment right to go into anyone's residential area and protests. So what we're seeing being allowed through our residential neighborhoods should not be. That, again, has been on the books. That legislation, if you go back and read it, it references Klan activity, and it's been on the books for nearly 50 years. It was to allow people to have quiet enjoyment and to recognize the sanctity of someone's home. So the activities that are happening in our city are not legal. I support everyone's First Amendment right to protest. I support Second Amendment rights, but when we have laws that have been on the books for decades that are being ignored, I'm going to call it out, and I have a serious problem with that, especially when children are involved. And when I say loaded assault rifles, we know they're loaded because they've had several instances where they've fired off and had altercations within our residential areas, and it puts everyone at risk. Those bullets don't have names attached to them, and, one of them went through the front door of a residence, and a car had been shot up by a high-caliber assault rifle. So, and it was a left, if you saw where the police recovered this assault rifle that had a magazine for fast reloading. Why in the heck does anyone need that in the middle of a residential area in the city, in the middle of the night?
Councilwoman Gray, is this a campaign issue? Are you going to make law and order and just being able to walk down the street with a baby carriage an issue in this in this campaign?
I mean, I'm not making it the issue. It is an issue. When children are not safe in our city, and there are many parts of our city where children have been shot over the summer while they're sleeping in their beds, and our resources are being stretched to the limit. We need to assure that every mother, when they lay their baby down, wakes up in the morning to a child who is fully whole, happy, beautiful, healthy. We cannot afford to have people walking around with tempers flaring, arguing, and having shootouts in the middle of the city. This is not the Wild West.
Do you agree with me that the image of downtown Richmond right now is embarrassing and frightening? Like, why would anybody go down there? And I mean, the people that have gone to the city in the last 2 weeks that have not been there since like January, I mean, they're appalled. Mm-hmm. I put somebody up, one of our clients came in to visit us. I put him up at the Omni the night they smashed the windows. The guy called me the next day. He says, like, what the hell kind of a city is this? I mean, it's embarrassing. Richmond is a beautiful city. It's a vibrant city, and now it's under siege.
As my grandmother used to say, you can only embarrass yourself. You're not embarrassing me. I think there are people who should be embarrassed for allowing what has happened in our downtown to happen. Downtown is where I call home. What it does for me, the emotion it evokes for me is anger, because I know many of these business owners who are unable to open and operate, who are injured because they don't have the foot traffic. They don't have the folks coming down here that they had pre-COVID, because people are afraid to come into our downtown, and we've got to remedy that.